Welcome to Marketing, Media, and Money, your go-to podcast for proven profitable strategies, secrets, and resources from industry experts and global influencers to help you scale your business, shorten your learning curve, and stand out in a crowded, noisy marketplace. Here's your host, award-winning marketing and media strategist and international speaker, Patty Farmer.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Marketing, Media, and Money podcast. I'm so excited that you are here with us. Let me tell you a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. What if the key to your financial success lies in reprogramming your money brain and understanding the emotional roots of your financial decisions? Join us as we reveal powerful strategies to embrace abundance thinking and transform your financial reality. So let me tell you a little bit about our guest today. Jeannie Dougherty is a money expert, speaker, author, and mental fitness guide for professionals that want a career change without going into debt and need a vital cash infusion for stable and consistent income. So boy, this is going to be a conversation. Make sure you get your pen and paper out because you're going to have some writer downers for sure today. So thank you so much, Jeannie, for being here with me today.
Thank you.
I'm excited. So you talk about helping professionals de-story their money habit and patterns, rewiring and fixing their broken money brains so they can start a new career and live a life free from scarcity and confusion. I love that when I read that that's what you do. But for those of us that don't know, can you define broken money brain and why it's crucial for achieving financial success?
Yes. So if you go to a doctor, they're going to be like, you don't have a money brain. But the truth is we do, but it's more through our emotions and our behaviors, not so much like we found the money brain in your brain. It's actually multi-level, but your money brain roughly is on both sides of the brain, the left and the right, but it's on the left side that we learn our money. So we learn about data, we learn about fear, we learn about survival, and we also learn not to trust a lot of the information that we get. So if you want to make a change, if you want to go big, if you want to have the money that you need for an emergency, if you want money or more money for your retirement, you need to have a better financial conversation. All of that is on the right side of the brain. It's through the empathy. It's through the curiosity. It's the ability to navigate. It's the ability to activate when you're like, oh, there's a money situation. Let me get on it, not avoid and pretend it's not happening.
That makes a lot of sense, though, when you think about it. You know, I know that when I think of money decisions, of financial decisions, a lot of that is whether somebody's going to hire you or not. And I have always said that people make their decisions emotionally, and then they justify writing the check with data, right? You know, and so really both sides of your brain do matter, and they do different things. But I think that what you're saying is really knowing that. I mean, that's really important, just to make sure you know what to do and when maybe you should, right? You know, so right. One of the other things that you talk about are money muscles. And I love that, right? Because I know that I talk all the time about how if there's something you don't want to do, like if somebody says to me, Patty, I don't want to blog, or I don't want to have a podcast, or I don't want to do that, that's great. It's just like going to the gym. You know, there's many ways to use a muscle, right? And so you can use, you know, different ones, right? So money muscle. So I love that expression, right? But why are they, that's right, money muscles. Why are they essential for creating your desired financial change, right? You know, money muscles. So let's kind of talk about that. I love that you have this broken money brain and you have money muscles. So I really love it. So what are money muscles to you? Like immediately something comes to my brain about what I think they are, but maybe probably to the people who are listening or watching as well. So what is your version of a money muscle and why are they essential for creating that financial change that we want?
Yeah, your money muscles are actually, I always feel like are on the right side of the brain because we know how to flex fear and I'm going broke and all that jazz. But it's really the right side of the brain that is like, boom, I've got this. I can handle this. So money muscles are that repetitive action that we take with our money that actually gets us towards our goal. So you can lift, if you will, the weak muscle of like, we're not going to make it. Oh, it's terrible. Or I don't know what to do over and over. And you're going to have like, you know, somebody who lifts 5 or 10 pound weights. They're not going to have very strong arms be somebody who's like, listen, I need to make some changes this year. I'm going to really go for it. And I'm going to do it this way and not put myself into more in need of a financial rescue. Then you're going to pick up those heavier weights. But it isn't to break your arm. It's not to kill yourself, exhaust yourself, tear muscles and ligaments. No, nobody said do that. It's about building that strength. Because I met a woman the other day she's a physical fitness trainer. She is, very trim and very thin looking. She lifts, weights. You and I'd be like, really? And she's like, oh yeah, I started with 5-pound weights, but you don't stay there.
Exactly.
Going.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So if somebody has been in the, 1 to 3 pound weight, using right? They've been doing 1 to 3 pound weights, right? How can they start to build these muscles? This is a really good visual. Like this story is a really good visual, right?
Yeah.
How can someone start building the muscles? Like how can they go from, oh, yes, I'm doing 3 pounds right now, but if I wanted to start building that muscle, how can they start?
So one of the first things that I've really had to work with people on is to lay off the judgment towards yourself and maybe towards other people. So sometimes we get ourselves into some sticky situations or situations that aren't as clear until later, or you're kind of maybe in the middle, like you said you were going to have money here, now you don't have the money. What are we going to do? So in that case, what I always think about is, when it gets a little heavy for you, that 3-pound weight is starting to drag you down. The only way you're going to be able to lift something better is at least another 3-pound weight to even you out. And if you want, you can grab for the 5-pound weight, which you can still do. And that 5-pound weight is going to make you go, oh, wait a minute. I can put this 3-pound weight down and I can do something more, which is maybe I need to call a friend who is really good at maybe talking you down if you're feeling a little panicked. Or maybe you need to go back and be like, okay, this isn't working the way I thought it is. And so what is it that I could do? What is the plan? And just think about it. Don't take action. What is what you could do instead of what you should do or you must do or you won't do? Because that's where people get stuck in their money brains, is they get stuck in, I should have done this. Well,
coulda, shoulda, woulda. That destroys confidence a lot for people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what would you say are some of the most common money blocks that you see with small business owners and entrepreneurs? Because, I feel like a lot of times there has to be some that, people just do over and over and over. We get in our own way, right?
Yeah.
So what are the most common ones?
They said ambitious goals with no support. That's a big one, right? Have you heard this? Like, oh, I'm going to make X amount of dollars this month. That's wonderful. Do you have a system? Do you have a VA? Do you have, a team? Who's going to support you in this? Because by 48 hours into this, you might be pretty overwhelmed and can't do it. Versus
New Year's resolution.
Yeah, versus saying, you know what? I want to make this, but I also need to look at all the ways that I may not have everything in place. So to me, like one of the things that I always like to say to myself is I get better and better at my business every day. Because, when I think about where I started, I was totally clueless. I didn't know. But now I'm way savvier. I can, have conversations with CEOs and, have conversations with, really seasoned business owners for 30, 40 years and talk about like, this is where I'm at in my journey. Tell me more about your journey, and not feel like I'm competing. Just I'm in a place of understanding and support.
I think sometimes too, when it comes to money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Probably goes back to that broken money brain, is we beat ourselves up, right? I think a lot of times we have to give ourselves grace and then permission to say, you know what, this isn't your area of expertise, right?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of times we do. And not only that, but I think sometimes, like in the beginning, when you said that you de-story people, sometimes this money story isn't even your story.
Yeah.
It's your parents' story or a peer's story or the story, your grandparents' story, right? And those stories have been passed down. And I think sometimes you just have to realize that it doesn't have to be your story. You can write a new story, right? So I know that you have a system,
yes,
that you've created that shows you where your thoughts, emotions, and patterns are blocked and how to shift them. Here's the part that I really love, how to shift them in real time and the impact it has on your client's financial agility. So I got to tell you that if you can help people to shift, I think that is really good. And patterns are great, right? People talk about data all the time.
Yeah.
In my space. But I don't think it's just data. I think it's data and behaviors, right?
Yes.
You got to look at both data and behaviors. So if you have thoughts, emotions, and patterns and they block them, you have a system that's going to help to shift them in real time. I have to tell you, shift them. You had me at that. Real time. I mean, now that's pretty powerful. Shift them in real time. So tell us a little bit about that system.
So the system is that I work with folks for 10 weeks when I do the money boot camp. You can work in a group or individually. But what it is that we learn coping skills so that when we start off our day, we try to start off a little bit better or be more aware or think about something else besides like freaking out over the money or the business or whatever the drama is, the client, you name it. The next thing is when stuff goes bad, because guess what? No day is perfect. It's great when you get them, but tomorrow's going to be another day. And I don't know what's going to bring either because, you just got to deal with it. So this is when, you focus on, your breathing. This is when you focus on how can I utilize that ability to navigate. So I can walk you through a quick little visualization to kind of look at yourself, where would you be 5 years or 5 months from now? Does this really matter now? Or if it does, what action steps would you like to take? Meaning you don't even have to take them. It's just what would you like to do? And that's such a shift, getting yourself to the right side of the brain instead of gloom and doom. And I can't get myself out of this, or I don't know what's going to happen. It's like, no, you do. You do know what's going to happen. It's your life. You're the one writing it.
And I think that's why sometimes we repeat the same things over and over. And I believe that until you heal it or take care of it or take some type of action, right? So that's kind of the shift, right? It's going to keep coming back until you get it, right? Over and over and over again. You're like, oh my gosh. I mean, how many times people said, I can't believe I'm here again, right?
Yeah.
I like to say all the time that even if something happened and I lost everything, what I still have is the knowledge that made me build it in the beginning and I just built it again, right? But you have to give yourself grace and realize that we're all going to make some mistakes. I don't think I've ever met anybody in my life who's literally not had any type of money block or hasn't brought some type of situation, right? And so I think sometimes it can be easy to recognize them in other people too. So I love that you have a system that you've created, because I think it is really important for us to be able to get out of our way as quickly as possible and then recognize what were the things that triggered it, right? Because awareness, I know that I have triggers for certain things. This isn't one of them, but I have my own triggers for things. And I know that a lot of times the more aware I became, that then when I got triggered, like it didn't have to go as far. I could back it down and use visualization or whatever in order to be able to handle it so it doesn't kind of wipe you out, so to speak, right? So I think when it comes to money, that's a powerful one because it is the thing that really kind of controls in some aspect everything, right? Our business, our life, right? So I think it is an important one. So being able to make those shifts, and if you could do it in real time, that's even better, right? Because sometimes we have something that happens and then we have to work through all kinds of stuff, and it may take a day or two or a week, right?
Right.
Quickly because you have a system, and you share that system. I think that is fabulous. And I know that when we had a conversation, you told me that sometimes your clients see increased cash flow in less than 30 days. I mean, that's pretty impressive, right? So what kind of strategies, can you share a couple strategies you use to achieve those kind of rapid results?
So a lot of times it's just basic brain science. The minute you become more aware of your numbers, the minute I go, is there any money that anybody owes you? Is there any money that you haven't accounted for? All of a sudden money shows up. So whether somebody has to go and say, oh, you owe me, that does happen. But then the money starts to show up in places like, wait a minute, my aunt's just calling me and she's giving me money for something because she heard that I want to make this career change, or she's giving me money, I don't know, for something else for the house. And so then I don't have to pull that money here, but all that kind of like, oh, where do I put the money? Which is a very modern day problem. Our ancestors didn't have, where do I put the money? They either had it or they didn't. That was it. And that there was no other opportunity, because unless you were born into the gentry class, meaning they had all the land and, they had a beeline to get into the court of the king or the queen. That was it.
I think the days of like our parents and grandparents where, you went to work for somebody and you stayed there for 30 years and you got a retirement and you bought a house and you stayed in that same house and you paid off your 30-year mortgage. And then you have that retirement and your house was paid for. Like those days are long gone. That doesn't really happen anymore.
Right.
And for people in business, we're self-employed. We have our own business. Like we need to be responsible for those things ourselves. So now not only are we having to worry about expenses and money about running our business, we also have to start thinking about, okay, so that's what it's going to take to run my business. That's money, but really figuring out what you're going to do for later. That's kind of wealth, right? There's making money and then there's creating wealth. They're not always the same thing.
Okay.
And so really when you're thinking about it, and sometimes people will just say, you know what, this thing happened, or I want to do this and I just need a quick cash injection, right? You know, I have my plan for how I'm going to make my money this year and stuff, but then something comes up, right? Oh, all of a sudden you need a new printer or you need a meeting of office size printer. Like
Yeah.
big thing, or you want to invest in a $25,000 program that you know is going to help move the needle for you.
Yeah.
Or when you need that quick cash injection, what are some of the strategies that you help people to do when that is something that they're looking for, right? You know, it's not something that they're going to do every single day, but they do need it right now.
Right.
Then from that, where do they go after that in order to increase cash flow?
So first of all, money isn't away from you. Money's all around you. So that's number one. Like, that's like the thing that people keep forgetting. They're like, I have to go do something to make it come to me. No, you will probably already have it. So number one, first look at your finances. If you want to buy something, or whether it's a program or a piece of equipment for $25,000, do you have the credit? Do you have a client that's going to come in? What is it that you have, right? The next thing I would say is look at your list, or look to see who is, willing to, maybe you have people that you can sell more to, because that skill seems to always get pushed away. Like, forget about the selling. No, go to your list, go to your clients, make another offer, see if the money will come in, or at least a piece of it, because you can still use the line of credit if that's absolutely necessary. Now, if that's already tapped and this is what you need, well, then it comes down to, do you want a loan? And that's where it gets risky. Then it's like, yeah, but you're going to have to pay that back. Or do you want a gift? And the same money brain activates in either way. It's the story on the left side or the story on the right side that you have. If you get a loan, you're going to have to prove, like, oh, I've got all this history. Yes, I'm good at paying my bills. And hopefully they won't ask for your house at the same time for a business loan, right? But if it's a gift, or you're asking for smaller donations, like some people have done, I've seen them do that, then it might happen that you've got, and again, like the aunt, the family member, somebody who's willing to do that, or it becomes some other way. So if you really need cash, I always say, like, think of it like it could happen from anywhere. It could be a client, it could be a referral, it could be this, it could be that, because I have had so many people, once they got out of their stuck idea of like, I don't have it, I can only get it on a credit card or a line of credit, and I haven't done some of the work on myself by actually checking my numbers. I haven't looked to see if I can make another offer for a period of time. I didn't even ask for a payment plan. Like, that's another way through it. And if you've done all that, and then it's like, no, it's really coming down to loan, then are you prepared, and do you look good for a loan? Because if you don't, because we all know if we're not for a loan, for the banks or whatever, then that's going to be a real risk. And so, do people just run and throw lines of credits on their home? Yeah, they do. And then it becomes another issue, because they're like, this is the magic 8-ball. This is going to fix me. Let's come back to your business. Let's come back to those scales. Let's come back to making offers.
Well, I think that credit, when used properly, can be a good thing.
Sure.
I come from I have a mortgage background. That's what I used to do first before I did this. Until the 2008 mortgage meltdown, right?
Yeah.
And stuff, though, so really, really clear on that. And so it is true. Even sometimes when people were going to buy a house, and they would say, oh, well, the processor would come back and say, oh, we need this or we need that. And, they have 401ks, they have IRAs, like there's all kinds of things. Not to say you should take money out of that, but there's things you can do using that as collateral, whatever. So there's ways to do it in a good way, right? But again, you never want to put like your family at risk or your kids' college education, right? So I think that there's, some good opportunities and some that, are a lot riskier, and you have to really think through them depending upon what you're doing. Like personally for me, if somebody tells me that they want to hire me and they're going to take money out of their kids' college fund to do it, like that's a no for me. I don't ever want to be responsible for that. So that's a hard no. But when you're thinking about it, though, there are ways. And I think a lot of times it's also shifting your abundance thinking, because I know, for example, one time when we moved, my husband was changing positions. They got rid of his position. So he was out of work for a few months, and we were going to move. And it was a place I really wanted to move. So I was super excited about doing it.
Yeah.
And my husband was just kind of kept going back and forth. Like he said, babe, like he's like, I just can't figure it out. And I said, well, I tried really hard not to coach my husband. And I was like, well, are you open to receive? And he's like, yeah. I said, here's the thing. Your brain can't manifest the solution for you because you haven't made a decision. Like you need to decide. Once you decide, well, now the universe will come up with solutions for you. They're all around you. But when you're wishy-washy, like sometimes you get wishy-washy solutions, right? So I think that really that is about shifting your mindset into abundance instead of scarcity. Like if you're building relationships, you should have all these relationships too that you can tap into to what could you co-brand together? How could you collaborate with somebody? Like what are some things you can do? So that I feel like I have said that when somebody says, oh, I have this problem, I'm having a problem. I personally, this is personal, I hope nobody gets upset. I don't think that if you have a problem and you can throw money at the problem and it'll fix it, then it's not really a problem. A problem is if you have cancer or something, right? You know what I mean? But if it's just something that throwing money at it will fix, it could be a slight problem, but it's not that big a problem, right? So I love that these strategies that you're talking about in shifting that, I think a lot of times people can get caught in the mucky muck and then they don't take any action and it just gets worse. So I love that some of these strategies that you're talking about shifting mindset, especially in real time. I mean, I love that so much. I have to tell you that will help them to do that.
Yeah.
Quickly gets them back on track into, okay, what are my options? So my options are this, my options are this. And then they can just kind of go through what their options are till they find the one that literally works for them. So how do your coaching methods, like, I know you have these coaching methods, help some of your clients reduce some of the stress of that, right? Maybe sleep better, because really, honestly, I think those are the things that are keeping you up at nighttime, right? Like money.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like well over 90% of people report better sleep, actually improved communication and relationship building. One of the things that is great when I mentioned the sales piece in the last question was that if you've got like a good group of people, like not just like people who are supportive of you, but like real business referral partners, like a lot of times you go to them and say, hey, this is what I'm doing. Do you know anybody who might be interested? Like all of a sudden stuff suddenly shifts. Like people like, oh yeah, I just wrapped up a deal. Like and it's like done with ease. It's not like panic stricken getting on the phone, sending a text or an email. It's just like, oh, I haven't talked to you in a while. Oh, I do know 3 people who would be interested in that. Send me the information. Let me call them or let me email them or whatever. And then like, that's what keeps the money flowing and you flowing.
I think a lot of times when you're in the mucky muck, as I like to say, like you're not seeing other things because you're so in the mucky muck. So when you reach out to your mastermind group or like, the personal inner circle of people that you can talk to, whatever. I mean, certainly not get on Facebook, right?
Yeah.
But like, that's the people that you could trust with these type of things. A lot of times, like it's right there. You're just not seeing it because you're on the mucky muck, right? And they're going to say, oh, well, did you ever think of this? And what about this? And, oh, well, we were talking about doing this, right? So I think a lot of times that will really help you. And obviously having a coach that can walk you through those things that actually has a system is always really, really good.
Yeah.
Right. So that's always a good thing. So can you share how this like newfound financial agility can boost their self-confidence? Because certainly, if you're sleeping better, you're reducing stress, you're able to see what your triggers are, you're aware, you start going into the, oh no, I have abundance mentality. So I'm actually going to start thinking of what options that I have. I mean, that really has to make you feel more confident whenever things happen, because I have to tell you, building a business isn't for the weak of heart, right?
No.
I mean,
we don't make it past the first year. Yeah. You're weak of heart. Don't make it past the first year.
Yeah. For sure. So, what are some of those ways that you see that, how does this really kind of boost their self-confidence? And of course, the more self-confident that you feel, the more open you are to the other options that are out there. And maybe sometimes there's options that you don't even need to ask anybody else for help. They're right there. You're just not seeing them, you know, because I don't know how many times over the course of my 25-year career, I've had to shift and pivot, right? You know, certainly when the pandemic happened, and a lot of people had to do that. I'm sure nobody said, oh, where do you see your business in 5 years? And in 2020, that wasn't it. Right? You know?
Exactly. I think we all went,
that wasn't it.
no.
So, you know, we've had to learn how to pivot and shift. But I think if you're more self-confident and you do have a abundance mentality, it's a easier shift. It's an easier pivot because you have more self-confidence and stuff. So, you know, what are some of the strategies that, you know, so yes, you're working on those things, but how do you keep yourself there? And what are some of the ways that when you're working with people, some of the strategies or techniques you use that when you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm getting a little bit out of control, I'm getting a little bit overwhelmed right now, that if they already know they do have an abundance mentality, they're just kind of need to shift. Like I know for me that whenever I feel overwhelmed about anything, I just literally get my phone out. This is my technique. I just get my phone out, set it for 5 minutes and say, okay, Patty, go ahead and wallow, have a pity party, do whatever you're going to do. But when the alarm goes off, now put your big girl panties on. What are you going to do about it? Okay. Some days we need to allow ourselves to just, but you just don't want to do it for a long time. So you need to be able to set time or whatever. That's how I do it. Not to say that I'm sure that you have lots of other ones. That one just actually works for me to be able to just go, okay, that's enough. But once I actually do it, sometimes I'll even just say, okay, now put your big girl panties on, get a piece of paper out, and just start brain dumping like all of the things that you can do. And this doesn't even have to be about money. This can be whatever, where you're stuck and have to pivot and this didn't work the way you thought it was going to work or whatever. But I do believe that if you are feeling more confident in yourself and your ability, and you do have an abundance mentality. So when you're working with people and you help them to create this system, and now you've helped them with the system, right? You know, so you're coaching them. I mean, obviously people aren't going to stay with a coach for life, right? Right. You know, I mean, our goal is always to get them so that they can do it without us, right? Like, what are some of the things? So if somebody out there is listening or watching and they're going, you know what? I get that. I've done a lot of inner work. I've done a lot of stuff, but sometimes I kind of fall. I don't know what to do. Like, and I struggle to get myself back up and into that space. So if you're coaching people and you're helping with them with all this, what are some of the like little techniques you know, that you use to get them to get back on track?
Yeah. So what I always like to do, because, you know, part of the money coaching program is going over your money archetypes, or as I like to say, where's the money making archetype? So when people begin to do maybe a downward spiral or a panic stricken mode, I always ask, who is speaking to me right now? Who is speaking? And then they go, oh, and it's like that kind of shockwave. And then you're like, and where did this, you know, voice come from? Yes, I know the situation, but where did this voice come from? And then they're like, oh, I'm doing that thing again where I, you know, basically catastrophize everything that's in front of me and saying I can't do it. And then that's not entirely true because I have done it. It's like, yeah, so how does this reward you to go in this space and have this other voice speak to you or speak for you? And then they're like, it doesn't do anything for me. And it's like, okay.
I thought that, and I thought, like, for those of you who are listening and actually can't see your face, it's pretty funny. Go to the YouTube channel and watch it because it's really hilarious. I know, because you say that a game is a problem you enjoy working on, right? Yeah. And so how do you help your clients turn their money problems into, say, an enjoyable challenge that they can tackle with enthusiasm? Because I know sometimes when things happen and you are in the abundance mindset and stuff, it's almost, I don't want to say fun to have a challenge, a money challenge specifically. But it is kind of fun sometimes to be creative and be able to go, oh, well, I think I'm going to do this. And some of those ideas you do when you're being creative in that, end up later on going, you know what? I never would have thought of that. But in this game, like, you know, in this game, this challenge, I just thought of like 3 other things that I could do for other things, right? You know? Right. So I love that you're saying that it's a game. Yeah. So how do you help your clients turn their money problems into enjoyable challenges that they tackle with enthusiasm? Yeah, because if it's a game, then there's a way to win. There's a strategy, right?
It's, because if you're only taught that you're a loser and you're going to lose, then that's not a game, right? That's punishment.
Wants to play that game.
It's not a game, right? It's torture. It's not where we want to be. But when it's a game, you can get better. You can get the points. And you're absolutely right. So one of my favorite things is that when things start to like push back, like if you're developing a program or a project or you're working on a team, or I could go on and on and on. But the minute you get some constriction or some feedback like this, or the money flow is shifted and we're not going to be doing that, or that client didn't sign up, it's amazing to me. The really intelligent people who have built businesses have had to do what I call course correct, pivot. That's another word for it, like that. And they did it because they said, okay, this isn't going to work. They didn't boo-hoo it to death. They just said, I'm going to find an answer. And right there, because they knew the answer was right around them, like meaning more money. They knew there was a way to do it. They knew they had to keep talking to people, not sit there and stew inside and be like, I'm going to hide under my desk now. No, they had to go find a way to go, okay, I'm going to start talking to people, because every person that I know who's had like a really amazing like business breakthrough has done it because they like looked at their numbers. They looked at their abilities. They looked at their team. And then they said, does anyone have a suggestion? And then they finally went in a direction, pivoted, made that course correction. And then boom, the fact that they got a no here was the best thing, because they ended up making either, a lot of money, like maybe millions of dollars if they needed to, particularly in real estate, or maybe they just, made a few $100,000. And I don't want to like poo-poo that for anybody, but they were like, oh my God, I'm a champion. I can do anything. And it's like, exactly.
Well, I think what you're saying here is by doing that and rising to that challenge, they've kind of fixed their money brain, right? And now they're just flexing their muscle, right? That money muscle, which I really love. I have to tell you, that is just a visual. Well, like, yep, you're not doing the 3-pound thing anymore. Now you're up to like 15 pounds and you're going strong.
Yeah.
And sometimes it might mean, for right now, I only need like 5-pound money muscle. And sometimes when things happen, you're like, oh, I need to pick up my 15-pound money muscle and start flexing.
Yeah.
Right. And so I have to tell you, I really do think that the visual of right brain, left brain, and money muscle and stuff is a beautiful visual. So yeah, I really love that.
Thank you.
So I think that is really great. So you mentioned a few minutes ago about the money archetypes, right?
Yes.
And I know that as a gift for everybody here, so of course she wasn't going to leave you hanging. She was going to give you something to kind of help that. So I know that you kind of have a money type quiz, like a thing to figure out what your archetype is, which is certainly going to help you right there. So tell us a little bit about the gift. There's a button below. So if you're listening or watching, wherever you went to turn it on, there's a button right there for you to get it. So you don't have to worry about that, but tell them a little bit about it.
So the money type quiz is super easy. All you got to do is like hit the link. It takes maybe 1 minute to 2 minutes for you to answer the questions. And then you get an instant report of really where your money archetypes are. And so if you have more questions, you can always contact me directly at my website. But that's what it's there for. It's there to generate curiosity. It's there to generate, a way to be like, what if I looked at my numbers a little bit differently? Or what if I don't understand why I'm doing certain things? Or I thought I was good with money, because I've met more people who say they're good. And then I look at their numbers. I'm like, oh, your self-esteem indicates something different. But that's why you ask.
Well, that's because my husband, he says all the time, he's an engineer. He has said, probably been quoted more times to say, money doesn't lie, right? The numbers don't lie. Math doesn't lie. It just doesn't, right? You can think things are really, really great, but then when you do the math, which when I was in the mortgage industry, that people used to tell me that too. And then we would pull their credit and we would realize that not so much, right? Yeah. And so that's also using the muscle and using it right. It's kind of also like if you're picking up a 15-pound, dumbbell and you're not really ready for that, it's could hurt. But then again, how exciting is it when you've been lifting 10 pounds and then you lift that 15 pounds, you're like, oh my gosh, this was really great, right? That's really, really good. So I love that. And knowing what your money type is must also affect, I would think, so it's kind of, I guess, a question, like knowing which one do different money types make their decisions differently, right?
Yes. Yes. Right? And they make them for different safety reasons, so it's on that left side of the brain. Like some people are going to struggle because that's what they believe about money. They're going to push hard. They're going to always hang on to their cash, say they don't have any when that's not true. And but that's all in money psychology. Like many times I have conversations with business owners and I go, if you understood your buyer's money psychology, do you think that would help you? And they just look at me and go, you mean I'm not speaking to their money psychology? I'm like, no, you're speaking to only one buyer. Do you think you can?
And usually it's the one that we are, right? Like in those things, whatever the thing you are, then you talk to everybody like that.
Yeah.
So I would say that once you know your money type, that's going to help you to know how to make decisions. It could help you with recognizing what the triggers and the awareness of what your money brain is and what the money muscles are that you need to build, right?
Yeah.
Everybody doesn't have to build the same ones. I mean, somebody could say, oh no, I need to build my arms. I need to build my calves. So whatever the case may be. So knowledge sets you free, right? I mean, it just really helps you. And then having somebody who's going to help you with the results and what that can be. Awareness could be really great. And sometimes you want to hire somebody who can help you. So I love that. So if somebody wanted to get in touch with you, like you said, what is the best way for them to connect with you?
Oh, my name, which is my website. I am JeannieDougherty.com. So, it's Jeannie, like the old Jeannie from the old TV show, I Dream of Jeannie. So it's spelled that way. And then it's Dougherty, just like you can imagine, Doe, and then E-R-T-Y. Dougherty.
But leave below too. Might just be easier for you to click that button. It will be there as well.
Yeah.
So I know we talked about a lot of things right now, right?
Yeah.
We talked about a lot of things, and hopefully a lot of people have had their eyes open and they're raising their hand and leaning in going, oh, I want to know what my money type is, right?
Yeah.
And I want to work on fixing my money brain and maybe flexing some more muscle and stuff. So now they know how to get a hold of you. But if you had to narrow it down to just one strategy, what would the number one marketing media money strategy be?
You can make money your weakness, but really it can become your strength, because that's why you learn all the budgeting and it can be fun and the savings and the investing. It's always a game and you are in control, so you can win.
Oh, I love that. We all want to be a winner, right? I think when I was growing up, my dad used to say, you can be a winner or you can be a whiner. That's what my dad said. It was so funny. And he's not here anymore, but sometimes when I catch myself doing something, I'm like, oh, I'm a winner, not a whiner, right? Yeah. So it does help you, right?
Well, it does. It does.
So thank you so much, Jeannie, for being here. This was really
thank you.
Very interesting for me. I have to say, I love the visuals. I feel like visuals kind of help us to retain.
Yes.
And so this was some great information, some great conversations. So I just have to say, if you're out there, man, don't you want to know what your money type is? Don't you want to flex your muscle a little bit more? So I really encourage you to do that. Reach out to Jeannie and connect with her. Get your money type and start working on some of those and building that muscle. So thank you so much for being here with me this week. And if you enjoyed today's episode, and I'm sure you did, please like, subscribe, and review the podcast on your favorite listening platform. And if that's not enough, check out our magazine too. We have a marketing, media, and money magazine, and you can grab that by going to M3 Marketing, Media, Money, M3digitalmag.com. Till next week. Thank you so much. Thank you again, Jeannie, for being here with me. We'll see you all again next week. Bye-bye now.
Thank you for joining us today on the Marketing, Media, and Money podcast. To shorten your learning curve even more, make sure to grab your free copy of the Marketing, Media, and Money magazine at m3magazine.com. That's M3magazine.com. I promise your business will thank you.